Welcome back. After that grueling
video I made last time,
I decided
to record another, to help hone my video editing skills.
and learn some new ones.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be looking at my top 5 levels from Tomb Raider 2. Very, very exciting. Are you ready? Let's go. Tomb Raider 2 is actually my favourite Tomb Raider in the whole franchise. I've got very, very, very good memories of it from childhood. I remember initially watching my dad play it when I was little and it was really scary and exciting. Then eventually me learning how to play it. Tomb Raider 2 kind of goes further than the first game. We go to a load of new locations. We go to China, we go to Italy, we go into an oil rig and into a sunken ship into Tibet. It really sort of expanded the Tomb Raider universe. There were more weapons, there were a lot more human enemies in this game. A whole new soundtrack, which was also amazing, as I mentioned in the previous video. I don't know if this is the best actual game in terms of gameplay, but for me and for nostalgic value, it definitely was my favourite game. Lara Croft is back, she's cooler than ever. She starts by coming out of a helicopter and she does all sorts of crazy things. Does all that Lara Croft stuff, you know? She gets to wear some new outfits, if you're into outfits, you know? Snow gear, underwater diving, classic Lara tank top. You get to see vehicles in this game, boat, snowmobile. Is that it? So, let's go. Top 5 levels. Let's start now. At number 5 we have the Great Wall, which is the first level in Tomb Raider 2. And what a way to start the game off. You're essentially at the Great Wall of China. Fantastic location to start a game. And the level weaves in and out of the wall throughout. A really nice design decision there. The first thing you notice about it when you start playing is how much more of a world it feels, because the sky's now blue. It's not just dark black, I should say, like it was in Tomb Raider 1. It really feels more of a world. It feels bigger, it feels more expansive. The level starts with sort of a nice quietness about it. The design's fairly easy to begin with. You go up and inside the wall, you open some doors, you pull some blocks, and you defeat some fairly easy enemies. But as the level goes on, the difficulty level suddenly ramps up hugely. There's a massive run of traps towards the end. You've got boulders, and you've got knives swinging across. You've got spiked walls, and it is relentless. It just keeps going and going and going till you get past this run of traps. But it really sets the tone for the rest of the game and sort of gets you ready for what the game has to bring. I feel like the first level covers so much. The end of the level, to get the final secret, you have to drop down into a valley. And there is what becomes a Tomb Raider staple. There's a T-Rex down there. A T-Rex in the first level? What? Once you've collected the secret, there's a second T-Rex as you go back to finish the level. This is just so cool. And I feel like games back in those days had a bit of freedom to say, yep, there's a T-Rex at the Great Wall of China. You know, it wasn't quite as rigid as game design can sometimes feel now in those style of games. This level was just a great mixture. Enemies, great design elements, traps, just had everything. It just felt like the game started with such a bang. So at number 4 we have the Ice Palace. This comes much later in the game. I love the way the level starts by having to shoot an enormous bell, which opens a door. Very, very ominous and majestic. Majestic. Really scary. You go into a pitch black room and you can hear Yetis shouting. They can't get to you, but very, very scary there. This level introduced the springboard mechanic, which is a lot of fun, which you stand on and go flying up into the air, which, if that was in real life, would be absolutely terrifying. But because it's Lara Croft doing it, it's really cool. This level has a really eerie background track as well. It's something I forgot to talk about in my previous videos. The sort of background, what do you call it? The background track? Background music? It's not music. It's background sound effects, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, this level has really creepy background background sound effects. There's a really cool mechanic at one point where we use flares, which are new in Tomb Raider 2. You drop them into pits, and the pits have, most of them have spikes down them. But one to find out which ones you can go down, you drop flares into it. At one point in the level, you actually go back first over a bridge, over a previous level, which was a lovely mechanic to feel like all the levels are interconnected rather than just one level is the next level and the next level. They're all interconnected in some way. A trait that comes back in Tomb Raider Revelation, which we might get round to talking about, but maybe not because I'm not crazy on it. And then at one point you flick a switch to melt the ice, which breaks a lake from a previous level, which you need to go under, which is really, really cool. Again, that idea between going between two levels, which I loved. At the end, you have to hit an enormous gong to summon the boss. Again, lovely idea. It's very majestic, very magical, very spooky, very ominous, very, very Tomb Raider, basically. And this was just a fantastic level and a great end to this section of levels, the ones in Tibet where you go through snow hills and through a monastery, finishing with this really exciting and spooky palace. Number 3, we have the Temple of Zion, or Zion? I don't know. This level has a really dramatic opening with essentially the floor giving way and you falling down 2 enormous waterfalls. This is really classic Tomb Raider stuff, of that sense of you're falling into another world now, not a world based in realism, somewhere mysterious, somewhere different, and Laura's gonna explore it. This level has endless amounts of perilous and exciting platforming. I think it's possibly the longest level in the game, and it's really relentless in its platforming, but wonderful. Lots and lots of traps, and the traps echoing the traps from the Great Wall, the first level, because essentially we've delved deeper inside the Great Wall of China, and I really like that callback to having the same traps in both levels. The imagery in this level is absolutely wonderful. We start to go into the slightly sort of psychedelic nature. There's lots of enormous dragon statues, which is foreshadowing what is to come, you know, at the end of the game. Serious red and purple waters. The colour palette starts to go a little strange and off and odd looking, which is great. There's a wonderfully scary moment where you go deep into a cave and these enormous spiders come to attack you. We have fought spiders in the game up to this point, but they're fairly small. The ones in this cave are enormous, and it was a really scary moment. And again, one of those fantastic moments the developers thrown in to throw you off. Just a really, really great level. Really long, really challenging. Again, falling into the other world, somewhere otherworldly, and you know, the game from there just falls deeper into that world, and this is a great introduction to that. At number 2, we have Venice, an iconic Tomb Raider level. It's the second level in Tomb Raider 2, and we jump from China to Italy. Totally different surroundings. You're in the canals of Venice, essentially, with all the canopies and all the wonderful sort of European architecture. It's the first time you really appreciate the daytime feel of Tomb Raider 2. Obviously, as I mentioned, we've now got blue sky, and this feels like a real daytime level. Really nice. It's not ominous, it's not imposing. Totally different feel. For the first time, we have a lot of human enemies. There's guys with baseball bats, guys with guns, and it creates a really exciting twist to the level, all the amount of human enemies you're suddenly having to fight. I do know the human enemy element does get a bit repetitive later in the game, and they really did go overboard on how many human enemies they put into levels. Good lordy. We get introduced to our first vehicle, which is the boat, and the boat is the main way you traverse around the level. Totally different to anything else that comes anywhere else in the game. It's great. We are introduced to the part of the soundtrack, which I think is called the Venice theme. This is my favourite music out of all of the Tomb Raider soundtracks. Fantastic. There's a real sense of sort of class to it, and of course it's class. It's Lara Croft. She's classy, so of course the track is classy. And just taking a boat around the canals of Venice to this wonderful music. The soundtrack, I know I've gone on and on about this, but the soundtrack in these games is really one of the main elements which makes them so special, so different, brings out Lara Croft's personality and brings out the level's personality, and the Venice theme is a perfect example of this. The final boat section is wonderful, where you have to race across the level where a clock chimes down to the doors at the end of the level closing on you. You have to fly through windows, lots of action. We don't see anything like this at any other point in the game, and it's why Venice has to be my number 2. My favourite level in Tomb Raider 2 is the floating islands. The first thing you notice about this level when you start it, we've completely entered a world of fantasy. There's no floor, just these floating jade green islands. There's a black and grey doomsday sort of looking sky. This is a fantasy world, or more accurately, a nightmare world. It's totally nothing like we've ever seen. There's a really ominous and spooky background track. You can hear sort of strange whispering in it at various points. The main enemy in this level are these 2 jade warriors. Warriors. 2 jade warriors. There's a really strange low rumble as they come to life. One of them floats through the sky towards you and can attack you with an enormous sword. The other ones have spears. These enemies, because we're on the second last level, they're very, very difficult to fight. When you do kill them, they turn jade and then explode, which is really, really cool. And they're really scary, you know? You're not quite sure when exactly they're going to come to life. You can fall off this level at any time into a never-ending pit of oblivion, essentially, which makes it really, really difficult, but also really unique. Again, as I said, the imagery for this level is nightmare-fueled. You've got enormous walls of lava, psychedelic colours. You've got greens, nothing but greens everywhere, all over the level. Really, really amazingly striking looking, and just my favourite look of the whole game. Towards the end, you've got this really cool room where these ninjas come at you, another new enemy, these ninjas who chuck discs at you, and just a wonderful, wonderful penultimate level. It might be my favourite level on any Tomb Raider game, but I did say that in my last video as well, so I'm not sure. I really, really adore this level, and that is why it had to be number 1. So again, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. Please feel free to say in the comments below what are your top 5 Tomb Raider 2 levels. I would absolutely love to know, and I will see you next time. Yep, gonna need this. If you've played this game, it's really, really hard. So yeah, definitely need this. I will see you next time.